So obviously I have a huge loving for analog horror. However, there is not many analog horror series on the internet that have genuinely shocked me as much as this one. In today's video we will be discussing a certain analog horror series that genuinely shocked me to my core, genuinely scared me, which in my opinion is a quite difficult task, and that is The Smile Tapes. Now this whole series is an amazing series by Patoriku, I hope I pronounced that right, but definitely go check them out. Link is in the top of the description. Go support their channel because genuinely this is by far one of my favorite analog horror series on the entire internet. Obviously it rivals the Walton Files for me. That's how good this channel actually is. So without further ado, go watch the series first before going into this video, because I will be diving in to the main story and main plot points throughout this whole analog horror series. If you do enjoy, make sure to smash the like button down below. If you like anything to do with horror, make sure to smash that subscribe button, and let's get straight in to The Smile Tapes. Now, The Smile Tapes opens up in a very similar manner to most analog horror series, with an announcement kind of police investigation video, as we learn that there is a new drug on the scene and it is involving this sort of psychedelic. Now, this is basically this drug that is later known as the smile drug. Now, this drug is known to have over 500 deaths at this current stage and also has very similar symptoms to the so-called smiling. As we hear, the symptoms of those infected by this drug have somewhat mania, which obviously has some crazy effects on your mental state, and also have the smiling aspect of them, and also some maniac laughter, which we do hear later on in the series. Now, in my opinion, this is a really cold open, because considering analog horror has a lot of very interesting tropes, and the whole announcement warning video as the first video being a huge trope in analog horror nowadays, I do feel like this one has a little bit of a twist towards it, as not only is it like very similar to, let's say, the Mandela catalog opening, however it is a little bit more mysterious, because not only is the voice talking quite creepy, but the whole ambience around it, and it is straight into some horrifying imagery. It's straight away into some really disturbing vibes in the whole series, in my opinion. We later learn about some people who are in possession of this drug, and it seems to me that is almost like a virus, which is very cool to me, because I'm a huge fan of the likes of The Last of Us and obviously The Walking Dead. So when it comes to sort of zombie or virus type analog horrors, I'm really intrigued by them, and this is no different, because we learn about these two people who are brought into emergency on the same day, as we hear in the entire because basically the psych ward of this hospital, there is multiple people and multiple patients who have been in contact with this smile drug. We later learn that in week 1 of these two new patients that they have began to sort of resemble a smile. Now, this is obviously the first symptom of the entire smile drug, and ultimately what gives it its name of the smile drug, and also the name of the Smile Tapes. Now, the faces we see in this series when regarding this stage 1 is horrifying. I feel like it's definitely some really uncanny imagery. To me, it really does remind me of the likes of Pennywise's smile in It. I do feel like it's very cool like that. It's very uncanny, and the worst part about it is it's genuinely just staring down the lens, which adds to a little bit more uncomfortability about it. We then learn in week 2 that the patients who have been involved are starting to deteriorate in some way, and the smile on their faces have begun to go wider and wider, almost disfiguring their face. Now, to me, this is absolutely terrifying, because we also notice that one of the patients begins to lose some hair, which is terrifying, because it's almost like when you compare week 1 to week 2, these people are barely recognizable as the same person. To me, that's terrifying. I do feel like that the way all you have to do is come into contact with this drug, and all of a sudden it can completely change how you look, how you act towards others, and ultimately kill you. We then learn in week 3 that these people's faces have completely disfigured. As you can see, the one on the left resembles almost looking like Michael Jackson to me. That's a joke I made when I first watched this series. This person on the right is completely unrecognizable. His face honestly just looks like one of those Halloween masks you'd see, almost kind of resembling Red Skull from the Avengers, if you know that. So to me, when it comes to just this whole disfigurement of the face, the Smile Tapes and the smile drug in particular have some really disturbing imagery. And ultimately, when you get to all the way to stage 5, which is obviously week 5, that it becomes very, very apparent that these people have no longer any function of their brain, and ultimately the person on the right, who we've seen throughout this entire stages, has passed away, which now we do know that most of the patients who will encounter this drug probably won't even make it past a month or just a month and a half. Now, to me, that's absolutely terrifying because it really does show the fierce viciousness of this drug. Considering it's basically, spoiler alert, it turns into a sort of virus in this series, it's really, really creepy because considering how easy it is to come into contact with this, considering almost 500 people have died in just the first video alone, it's very, very creepy to me. I do feel like this series does use that sort of, seriousness about it, and I feel like it's very, very sudden because there's not much happiness or jokes or anything. It's straight seriousness of how, oh my god, if you come into contact with this, you are done for. There's no cure. You're pretty much done for, and you're very unlucky to get in the early stages of the whole research of the drug because realistically nothing is going to save you. This is emphasized as we see a person logging their diary over a couple of days and a couple of weeks, and we do feel that this person is normal at the start. However, as the diary entries go on, it is very, very apparent that this person has been infected in some way, and ultimately the action that goes on afterwards is absolutely terrifying as it comes to this person ending up shooting up like a road or a city, ultimately getting killed off by the police in the process. But the fact that this drug has brought this person to that sort of maniac state is terrifying because it genuinely can switch a person who is really nice on the outside, all of a sudden give them 2 weeks and they're a completely different person who is unrecognizable, one, and also just absolutely crazy. That's basically how easy it is to put it. They just become crazy. However, the series starts to take a turn throughout near enough the halfway point of the series, as it does introduce this face. Now, this is a really, really cool element of the series because this face is hinted at towards at the start of the videos, and I do feel that's really cool because it is kind of only noticed as I saw him, and this is actually a creepypasta. I'm pretty sure that this specific face is like, oh, if you saw him in your dreams and stuff like that, which is obviously a huge thing. I love creepypastas, so I noticed this face straight away. So it's really, really cool. Because this face is very, very, very important in the series, because when it comes to the people who are infected, it seems to me that they dream about this man, and ultimately this man kind of influences their actions in the later stages of infection. So I do feel like it's really cool the way we get this sort of vibe of, oh, this person, they're infected, but it's more of a mind control. It genuinely is like the whole Last of Us side of stage, or if you've seen the movie The Crazies, it's kind of similar to that, where a person who just gets infected, who might have obviously a whole lot of control over their own actions, they get infected. However, this sort of psychedelic or whatever this sort of drug is in their brain switches on, and all of a sudden it's basically just mind control at that point. However, we do end up noticing that this virus takes a sort of, evolution as it begins to have different variants. We have obviously variant A, which is the original, drug that we've seen in the past that just has the whole deterioration of the face and the smiling. However, there is one very dangerous element of this virus, and that's variant B, which is called, I'm pretty sure it's called benign, or I don't really know how to pronounce it. However, a person who is infected and is, declared benign has no, basically it's asymptomatic and basically has no symptoms of having this virus, and ultimately doesn't have the smile, no mental or facial deterioration, ultimately just basically is a vessel for this virus to spread to more people. And that's even more terrifying, because the whole tapes at the start has been telling you to, stay away from these people who are laughing and smiling really vigorously. However, now you could have a family member who is benign, who's infected, and all of a sudden you could just be around them, and all of a sudden, give it a week and you're crazy. However, we're also introduced to variant C, and I will just let the clip do the talking for this one. What the text here. Huh? What? Hi, yo, bro, your hairline's worse than mine. What the hell is happening to him? And then after we find out the variants is, in my opinion, one of the best tapes in the entire series, as we see a person basically exploring the wilderness, kind of, away from reality, ultimately in, a scary way, away from all sort of research and news of what's going on in the world regarding this virus. And to me, that is terrifying, because not only do we see what happens to this dude, it is absolutely terrifying considering he has no idea what's actually going on. As this dude begins to explore this sort of foresty area, however, we do see a house. However, just in the distance, we just hear a slight chuckle. And we, as a viewer, we know what's going to happen. And ultimately, this dude gets killed off by the Smilers, is what we'll call them. We then get some more in real life footage in a future tape, which is a huge plus for me. If you know me with analog horror, I love seeing the IRL footage. And this is no different, as we see almost the entire area of this place turn into it basically just turns into a wasteland, and it is ultimately just a massive, almost zombie infestation at this point, because this person is obviously scavenging around for food. However, he does have a sort of knowledge of what kills these sort of people, because obviously it's probably going to be very hard to get some guns, because if you don't have a gun and already the whole city is infested with these Smilers, it is very, very difficult. So this dude has come up with his own way of, taking care of him. However, we do see him basically scavenge around for food, but he does encounter a Smiler, and all of a sudden this person starts sprinting full speed at him. However, he just gets into his hideout in time, and all is set the clip pay out. But this is by far one of the best scenes in the entire series.
No way.
However, we then come into contact with a sort of audio wavelength, as we then learn that there are developments of a cure in this hospital. However, this is probably one of the coolest elements of this entire series, because obviously I've mentioned that the smiling people are kind of like zombies. However, they're smarter, as not only does this person, this, smiling person who appears in those dreams when you get infected at the first time, not only does he kind of have total control over these people, they have decided to take out the hospitals first. And that obviously means that there's no possibility of a cure. So as we then learn, as we are told that, there's this cure in the works, we then cut to the hospital that we saw previously, covered in blood all over the walls, as the doctors and nurses who have been development and scientists who have been developing a cure have been killed in the process, as the Smilers have all grouped together and infiltrated the doctors and infiltrated the hospitals all over this town, as we see that same face pop up and repeat, there is no cure. Now, to me, that is a super dark element in this series, and ultimately adds a little bit of characteristic towards these sort of zombie-like creatures, because we then learn that they're so smart. They're smart that they're able to know that, okay, these people are going to try and cure us. We don't want to be cured. We want to take over, so we're going to take out the hospitals first. And to me, that is terrifying, and ultimately leaves a really dark end towards the end of this series. However, this series has a somewhat bittersweet ending, as we kind of just take a 20-year jump forward, as we learn that the people have actually survived this outbreak. This dude called Lucas Sutterfield is explaining on like a podcast or a radio station how he survived the outbreak. Now, to me, I did find that the ending of this series was kind of rushed. I kind of just thought, okay, all of a sudden it just ends and everything's back to normal after 20 years. But ultimately, I'd like to have seen what happened, of how they kind of cured the disease. We don't really get much emphasis. We just kind of see this like massive light show above the sky, as this person who's in this hideout, presumably this Lucas dude, kind of just looks up and there's a load of lights. So my guess is that there was something, probably like an army or something, like infiltration of the city. But ultimately, this series is an amazing series, and if you stuck all the way to this video and you have seen the Smile tapes, I'd love to hear your opinions on it. What did you think of the Smile tapes? Is it in your top 5 analog horrors? Did you actually get scared from it? Because personally, I actually did. Specifically, the sort of faces that pop up and disfigurations and stuff that happen in the series definitely did get me. But ultimately, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you do enjoy anything to do with horror, do smash that subscribe button. I'm really close to 4,000 subscribers, so if you want to help out in any way, shape, or form, I'd really, really appreciate it. Hope you all have the most amazing day, and as always, stay safe and peace. first shot of this episode. Tammy picks this house.
Oh, what about that one?
Now, if you ask me, that is the, worst house you can pick. It has wallpaper on the outside.